Welcome everybody to Trust the Process show. Here's Chris Reed. Super excited today to be joined by Brent Gleeson. Brent is the founder and CEO at Taking Point Leadership, former Navy SEAL, keynote speaker, and now a best-selling author. Thanks for joining here with me, Brent.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, Brent, just for anyone, I kind of did a quick little overview of, who you are and what you're doing, but maybe you want to give everybody just a quick little synopsis of, who Brent really is coming from your point of view.
Sure. Yeah, just a quick rundown. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I live in California now, but I still claim to be a Texan. And did my undergraduate education at SMU, degrees in finance and economics. Studied at Oxford University in England for a bit, and then actually worked in finance for a year before leaving that job to join the Navy to at least attempt to make it into the SEAL training program. We can talk about this later if we have time, but it's kind of a funny story because actually one of my fraternity brothers talked me into this crazy idea.
Oh, no way.
It was a major... Yeah, he was one of those guys who had wanted to be a SEAL since he was a young boy, and I had never really had any significant aspirations of joining the military at all. My dad had been a Marine during the Vietnam era, did not deploy, but had never pushed the military on me or my twin brother at all. So joined the Navy in 2000. Joined BUD class 235. BUD stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. It's the first 6 months of the 18-month training pipeline. And graduated, joined SEAL Team 5. Unfortunately and ironically, 9/11 occurred literally 2 days before my class started the advanced portion of training. And that really began the entire transformation of the military and the special operations community into what is our now constant state of change in our post 9/11 reality. I did several combat tours, a couple to Iraq, Africa, and some other places, and hadn't planned on doing it as a career. So took those experiences, left the SEAL team, went to graduate school to get an MBA, and had since then become a serial entrepreneur. Another thing that I had no aspirations of ever doing. I just figured I would go back into finance or real estate investment development. And because that was at the time when the real estate economy was just thriving, the bubble was getting bigger and bigger, and nobody had any idea that the global economy would collapse. So I figured I would ride that wave all the way to the top. And that's just kind of a quick rundown. I've built and sold a couple companies since then, and have been building the speaking and leadership development and culture transformation business for the last 6 years. I speak about 60, 70 times a year all over the world, and do a lot of longer-term engagements with organizations who are trying to lead change, go through any type of transformation, and or improve their culture and employee engagement. So we have a lot of different things we do in that arena. I'm married to my best friend. We have 3 kids who are 12, 4, and 2, so we're really in the mix of insanity. So that's... and I'm on the executive board of the SEAL Family Foundation. We support the families of our active duty and fallen operators, and my family is also an ambassador family for the March of Dimes. That's just a quick synopsis.
That is a good cause at the end there. That's really nice to hear that you're giving back, because that's a big portion in this world is to give back. So, but wow, what a career so far, Brent. Kind of what I heard, and I guess going into the premise of this show is trusting the process. Now, heard a few things there. Is you didn't have plans to do a couple things, and those plans that didn't, the things you didn't plan for, seem to have led you down a pretty good path. So. I guess my question, for you, Brent, based on your background and where you've been, is what does trust the process mean to you? And how has that really kind of led you to where you are by trusting whatever that process may be?
To me, trusting the process is in large part about your own personal goal setting approach and mechanisms. I really believe in the philosophy of constantly pushing the boundaries and confines of your comfort zone. Because in my experience, kind of based on 2 of those major transitions, and I think you would agree with me, it's outside of our comfort zone where the magic really happens. Mm-hmm. When we stay comfortable and in our little bubble, in our small world, that's where you're just going to remain. And you're not going to open the door to endless opportunities and possibly even things that you never even pictured yourself doing. But when you consistently push your comfort zone and take calculated risk, I'd say calculated as the emphasis, not just willy-nilly risk, but taking calculated risk to push those boundaries of the comfort zone, you again open up a pathway to opportunities of things that could completely change your life, or the lives of other people around you. And that's just kind of my philosophy on how I've lived life. But once you decide to take a little calculated risk and go for a lofty goal, beyond that, it's about hard work and discipline. And discipline really does open the door to a happy, fulfilling life. And I really believe that in that philosophy of, the harder I work, the luckier I seem to get, which translates to there's no such thing as luck. It's really just about discipline and hard work.
Absolutely. No, and I think, for myself, I wasn't in Navy, a SEAL team, but, I was in the Canadian military. And I think the one thing that was kind of distilled in me in that piece you mentioned is that discipline piece, and how important discipline is in everything we do. Because there are days, for myself, and I'm sure you, and I'd like to even ask you about what your experience is, but, those days when, we all are human at the end of the day, and we all have those days where we just really don't want to get out of bed maybe, and we're tired or sore or whatever it is, feeling defeated. Yep. That discipline is kind of what creates that process to push through that. So, you've had a lot of success, Brent, and, I think it's great to celebrate those successes. But, for a guy like yourself, what does it look like on those days that, maybe people don't see of Brent, when those days are tougher and that process that you've created really helps you push through those? What does that look like in those moments?
Oh, sure. I mean, we all have had plenty of adversity in our lives, professionally, personally, and there'll continue to be elements of adversity throughout everyone's life till the end. But it's really about trying to maintain focus on the vision, the goal, and mental toughness, and even more importantly, maintaining a positive mental attitude. Obviously, my experience as a SEAL came with a lot of adversity, not just in the training, but also in combat and the loss of many, many friends. I can't even remember how many funerals I've been to. And then also still working closely through the SEAL Family Foundation. There's been a lot of hardship when it comes to that, but that's part of the job and part of the sacrifice that we take on. And then just transitioning to becoming an entrepreneur, which has a similar failure rate as the SEAL training pipeline does,
Sure.
80 to 90%. There was plenty of times I literally remember being in tears, having gotten out of the Navy, then student loans from grad school, and just trying to get this the first business off the ground. And there were days when it looked like it wasn't going to happen, or where it was going well for a while, and then it looked like we were just smashing against a cliff. And there's just times where I really had to collect myself and suffer in silence a little bit, and then refocus and lean back into that mindset that, for example, got me through SEAL training. And when you can really reflect on the things in your life that have been put a little hardship on you, but you got to remember back to how you got through it and how you felt after you got through it. And usually life's hardship and those challenges that we face usually aren't as tough of obstacles as we initially anticipate.
Well said. And what I almost hear there too is, with that vision, goal and mindset, it really, you got to have all three, and you can't just have the two, because each piece of that pie there, it sounds like, helps contribute to any of those emotions or any of those moments through adversity or just resiliency to create, to push you through. So that's awesome, man. And then, so now, you're moving into this speaking thing, a whole new kind of venture from where you've been, and even releasing a book. So what is your book, coming into being a Navy SEAL to an entrepreneur, and now a best-selling author? What's that change been like, and what's it been like for you, in this new journey, in this new path for you?
Those are actually also could come with some interesting stories of transition. The speaking thing also just came about as, well, I'll just tell the story. You can see how this works. It's another thing that I had never had any real vision or aspiration of becoming a public speaker, motivational speaker, whatever you want to label it as. But while I was running my second company, I had the fortune of landing weekly columns on both Forbes.com and Inc.com, and had a plan to obviously use those columns as thought leadership platforms and content marketing channels, really to promote the space that company was in, which was a very data-driven digital marketing agency. So it was an opportunity to put some really great content out there and label us and me as the CEO as thought leaders in that space. But I also really had more of a passion for writing about leadership and building high-performance teams and how you can apply those leadership philosophies and cultural principles that we learn, and as you know, in the military, how we can apply those principles to building high-performance teams with highly engaged team members with a culture that's designed to meet specific business results, and how we can apply those military philosophies to business. And so I was writing more about digital marketing on the Inc. column, but my Forbes column was titled From the Battlefield to the Boardroom, and I still write on it every week. But one Saturday morning, I woke up and decided to check my email real quick, and I had a personal email from the president of Bank of America Merrill Lynch Asia Pacific, one of the top 3 executives in the entire global organization, who ironically we're now best family friends. We're godparents to each other's children, and we just spent a week with them in Malibu. They came out from London to visit us for a week, and I got this email from this guy Matthew Coder. And he was like, I just read this article on Forbes. I love your philosophies. And he's the guy's only 46 years old, and he's in that senior level position in Bank of America. And so at the time he was 40, 41. And he said he loved the article. Long story short, he ended the email by saying, can you come out to Hong Kong next month and do a series of keynote presentations and workshops throughout the day at our Global Leadership Summit? And so, being an entrepreneur, naturally, what did I say?
What did you say?
And I sent the email, then I turned to my wife and I was like, "Go crap! Once again, what have I committed to? I guess I'm a public speaker now." So I put a bunch of content together based on some discovery calls with Matthew and some other team members from the human resources side, and just rehearsed and prepared relentlessly for these events in Hong Kong. And frankly, I was terrified. I mean, my wife traveled with me, and these are before we had 3 kids. And back then, she was like, I like you so much better after you're done speaking. Because before I go on, you can't talk to me. I'm in my head, especially back then when I was new to this. It's terrifying. But it went so well that they invited me back to Sydney and Singapore to do the same tour the following month. And I've done that APAC tour for them and some other consulting every year since. And so I found a passion for it. And it's kind of like an extreme sport to a degree, because you're kind of nervous and high energy before you go on, and you feel amazing afterwards, especially if you crush it. And I still approach it with that mindset today, even though during the busy seasons throughout every year, I'm speaking 5 times a week. But every experience, no matter what the audience is, who the organization is, or what the event is, I want it to be the best one I've ever done. So yeah, I go into it with that mindset. So I'll rehearse, and I have this very regimented routine every single day before I speak and after I speak. And so I found a passion for that. And between my experiences in the military and our constant state of transformation in this post 9/11 reality, the transformations that I had to lead my businesses through rapid growth and industry changes and other external and internal factors, it's just a reality of modern business. I really saw an opportunity to write a book that aligned military organizational transformation philosophies and cultural principles to the world of 21st century modern business. And there's just so much data out there and so much research, and in my own experiences, as to why organizational change efforts typically fall short of meeting their objectives. It's literally, according to McKinsey & Company, 70% of organizational change efforts fall significantly short of meeting their goals and objectives. And in large part, it's due to low levels of employee engagement, lack of leadership alignment, vertical and horizontal silos that all organizations have and try to break down, but it impedes communication about what that vision is. So I found this opportunity to align the military's state of transformation to the world of business, and backed it up, of course, with a lot of stack-based data and research and some stories from my own experiences in my business. And that's what became the book, Taking Point, the Navy SEALs 10 fail can't talk today. Navy SEALs 10 fail-safe principles for leading through change. And it was the #1 new release in organizational change and the #1 new release in business structural adjustment. So I feel very blessed, but and it's done well. But it was just a really great passion project, also terrifying because once you release it, it's out there, and you're opening yourself up to criticism and questioning about certain theories. But luckily, so far so good.
What I appreciate, Brent, is the honesty there. There's we look at you as a guy, successful Navy SEAL, and you still feel the things that everybody else feels. But through your processes and just, mentioning like discipline and vision and mindset, you overcome those moments, and through those discomfort, for you has been a lot of really great opportunity through just putting it out there, and not really having a schedule, just kind of going with what opportunity comes your way. So I just want to tip my hat to you, my friend. That's it's just like, I just smiling the whole time you're talking to me. That's just a great story. I appreciate hearing that.
I got one more quick one for you.
Cool, let's hear it.
That has to do with family and marriage. Another piece of calculated risk. I met my wife in Costa Rica at the wedding of one of my SEAL team buddies, and he is now married to her best childhood friend. So they've known each other since they were like 5 years old. We met at the wedding, and literally at that wedding, I told her we were going to get married. And a month after the wedding, we got matching tattoos. This is before the engagement. A month after the wedding, we got matching tattoos, and 2 months after the matching tattoos, we got engaged. And then a week after we got engaged, we got married on August 7th, which is coming up next week. And then that was just the formal process. Then we did the big wedding a year later with everybody. But here we are, 3 kids later. So
good for you, man. That's
trust the process, brother.
Yeah, trust the process is absolutely right. So, man, I really appreciate that. Now, I guess the last piece I kind of want to talk on is, what is your vision for what you do? So I think, you touched on this piece, and, vision can be, I think, misconstrued of what it actually should be. I think people put visions as just goals to obtain. So I guess my question for you is, as you trust the process of what you're doing to where you're going, what's that lofty vision that, Brent Gleeson is out to change or to do?
The near-term lofty vision with what I do from a work experience is to really help inspire positive change in organizations, and therefore inspire positive change in people's lives, and by making organizations better, and therefore you're improving the workplace environment, the environment of the employees, their morale, their engagement, and therefore even improving the lives of the customers that they serve. Now, on an even much larger and more important scale, one of the things that I've always told myself and tried to maintain a vision on, and it's starting to come to fruition, is working so hard that I have someday greater and greater time and means, from a time, resource, and financial perspective, to give back and leave the world a better place than I found it. I've seen some of the most horrific war-torn countries you could ever imagine, experienced some pretty awful things in combat, and that's not why I've always had this vision, but it definitely is a contributing factor. And so through hard work and discipline and self-motivation, really trying to put myself in a position where I can be very philanthropic and give time and resources to causes that are near and dear to both my heart and my wife and our family. So that's kind of the big vision for long-term success as I see it.
Oh, that's I love to hear that, man. I think if we all make that, and that's part of my long-term vision too, is to really see what's right and what's good with the world, and to help the ones in need. And I think if we all take that step forward and really try to make a serious effort to helping even just one person a day, this world will be in a better place.
Well, you're right. It can be those. It doesn't have to be giving a bunch of money to charity or being on the board of some nonprofit. But like to your point, those micro moments, by just being kind or doing something for someone, knowing that they're never going to find out you did that for them. Those little things. If like you said, if everybody had that mindset, God, this world would be an amazing place.
It would probably put some military operations out of business because there'd be people just loving each other.
I know, man. We'd all be sitting around doing nothing.
Be a lot of jack dudes and gals just hitting the gym all day. That's what it would be. So
you're not going to be working out 4 hours a day, but oh well, I guess that's good too.
That's good too. Well, you know what, Brent, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to connect with me and tell me some of those stories. Those are really open and vulnerable moments, and I just appreciate you sharing those with me.
Oh, well, it was an honor and a pleasure to chat with you. I'm sure we could talk about this stuff all day, but let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brent. And before we go, any last points where people want to learn a little bit more about you, what you do, how to get in contact, and even I guess your book is probably on Amazon. But any kind of final notes there?
Yeah, my website is just brentgleesonspeaker.com. And there's also links on there to my Forbes and Inc. columns. So I write on those every week, and that's just a good resource. And people like to share those with their teams and even their family members as a piece of motivation. And yeah, the book's on in every Barnes and Noble across the country, and it's on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. So yeah, again, the book's called Taking Point. If you just Google Taking Point, Brent Gleeson, or Taking Point book, it comes up. So
Awesome.
again, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brent.